Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would do a video about makeup brushes because I've not really done a whole lot of videos on makeup brushes, and I thought I would share with you my favorite types of brushes, how I use them, how I care for them, and I thought this might be very helpful for anyone that is just starting out in makeup or is just new to the whole brush concept. So I think the perfect way to get yourself started with makeup brushes is to buy a makeup brush kit because everything sort of comes together. You get a whole range of brushes, and it's also cheaper because a lot of the time once you do like a collective amount of brushes, there's usually a bit of a discount as opposed to buying them individually. I personally am so fussy with makeup brushes. I have researched thousands of different makeup brush brands to try and find that perfect kit because I didn't really want to go out of my way to buy them individually. Plus, when you buy them in a kit, you usually get some sort of like carry case or something like that. So I have come across some new makeup brushes that are sort of all my perfect brushes in one kit, which is perfect for me because there's no point in purchasing a kit where I'm going to throw out half the brushes and put new brushes in there to make it the way that I want. So I was really excited when I found this kit because it actually has all the brushes that I would include into a kit. So this is my new brush set. This is from Crush Cosmetics. I'll have a link to their website in the description. They've also been kind enough to give me a discount code, which is Rachel Crush at the checkout to get 10% off your makeup brushes. That lasts until the end of April, but these are amazing. So it's a little zip case, which is perfect for travel because I'm always traveling a lot, so I need something that keeps all my brushes together. I don't really want to just chuck them in a plastic bag, so I love this because it has them all set out. And what I love is that they are rose gold, which I think is gorgeous. Rose gold is one of my favorite types of metal and I love it. So basically over this side you've got 4 sort of face brushes, and then on this side there are a range of like eye and other area of the face brushes. So these are from Crush Cosmetics. Like I said, they've got Crush Cosmetics printed there. Basically, I'm just going to go through each of these brushes and explain why they're my favorite, why this kit like works for me, and how I use them as well. So I've got little demonstrations as well. So first up is, let's go with the steps of actual makeup. First up is a flat top brush. Now, flat top brushes are one of my favorite brushes to apply foundation with. I have been using a flat top brush for foundation for almost 2 years now. I have used beauty blenders. I've used dome brushes. I've also used like foundation brushes, but these are my favorite. I feel like they give the nicest sort of airbrushed finish when applying foundation, and they're really easy to use. So I always squirt foundation onto the back of my hand and use the back of my hand as a bit of a palette, especially if I'm mixing colors. And I always start with just dabbing a little bit like this and then working it around on my face. Sometimes I pat it in, and that's why I like the flat top, is because it's really good for sort of pressing in the foundation rather than just rubbing it in. But flat tops are my favorite for foundation. Next up is my powder brush. So this is always the biggest, fluffiest brush that comes with a brush kit, and this is perfect for powder, whether you use loose powder or pressed powder. I always like to use a little bit of powder on my face. If I'm using my Rimmel Stay Matte, it's also to help my foundation stick on my face so it doesn't come off during the day, but sometimes I'll use another powder like my Australis powder that I use to add a bit more coverage, fill in the gaps, and kind of create just a nicer matte finish on my face. So you can use this in either circular motions like this, or you can even just press the powder in if you want to get that real sort of like full coverage look with powder. It's really good to just press it in like that. Next up is a smaller fluffy domed brush. This one I love for blush. Anything that's sort of a bit smaller than a powder brush but a similar sort of shape is perfect for blush. So I like to use this one. I swirl it in my blush, tap it off. I always tap off the excess on most of my products because you don't want too much sticking to your foundation or fallout going anywhere, especially with eyeshadows. So I tap it off and I work in this sort of up motion. I sometimes also press it in, and other times I'll work in little circular motions to blend the blush up. I also work just across here and a little bit up the side of my face as well, and I just really find that having a smaller sort of fluffy brush is perfect for blush because it is also a powder the same way that you are using a face powder, but you're only using it on this little part of your face. Next up is a angled brush. These angled brushes are actually really quite popular, and I like this one for contouring. So I use bronzer with this one. I use it in this sort of area. I also put the tallest point that way and the smaller point towards my mouth, if that makes sense. Trying to explain which way I use it on my face, and I just work it back and forth in this sort of motion. I don't use any other motions, swirling or patting or anything like that. It's just back and forth, both sides. Up here it's sort of side to side. When it comes to my nose, I'm just sort of one sweep down across the bottom as well, but I will repeat that same process if I would like more like color on my skin, so it's always just a sweep down on my nose. Then under my lip is just a little bit of back and forth, and then under my jawline, to sort of make my jawline a little bit more defined, it's sort of a back and forth around like this. Sometimes I'll circle it, a little bit more messy when it comes to that part. I don't have to be too neat in my brush strokes, but that's where I use that sort of brush for bronzer. Next up is a smaller brush that's pretty similar to the powder and blush brush. It's got longer bristles, so it tends to be a little bit more fluffy, but as you can tell, they're all kind of similar shaped. This one's just a little bit smaller. I've been using this one for highlighter. I like that this is sort of a lot more fluffier. How do I explain it? It's not as dense as the other two brushes, so it works really well for highlighter, but basically I sort of swirl it in my highlighter, tap off the excess again, and up in this motion, and I also bring it up and around the side of my face as well, so just up like that, and then I also bring it straight down the center of my face. So I'll go back and forth across the center of my forehead, straight down my nose, no movement, and then a little bit on the top of my lips, and a little bit right on my chin as well. So that's how I apply highlighter with that brush. Then it's on to the eyeshadow brushes. So I've been using this one here. This is like a little fluffy brush. I like to kind of call this a little bit of an all over brush. There's so many uses for this one, but basically this is my base start brush for eyeshadow. I use whatever color eyeshadow I'm deciding that day, and it will be all over. So I work from the inner corner all the way up to my brow, not my brow bone, my crease, just above my crease, and all the way to the outer corner, and I work that all over the lid with this one. If I want to add 2 colors or 3 colors, I will use this to sort of blend colors across the lid. Then I will move into a smaller brush like this one here that's a little bit fluffy, and I will use this one into the outer corner and the crease to get like a really sort of defined line, sort of concentrate the eyeshadow, and you can also sort of create more shapes with the eyeshadow when using a smaller brush like this. So if I want to create that triangular angled shape in the outer corner, this is the best brush to do it, and I always like to have a brush that works all over my eyelid, a brush for getting in the crease and making little sort of shapes on the outer corner, and then a blending out brush, which is this one here. So this one's a really thick, super fluffy domed brush that is perfect for blending out with my highlight color. So this one I use mostly straight onto the brow bone. I blend it out a little bit. I bring it from probably the center to the outer corner, then all the way back to the inner corner, and just all in that upper area to blend out all of the first 2 or 3 lots of eyeshadow that I have put on before this one. Then there is a concealer brush. I never really used to be into concealer brushes that much, but I now do like them because I am terrible at applying lipstick neatly, and there are days where I stuff up my eyebrows and I definitely need something to fix them up with. So concealer brushes are not so much for applying concealer on my face because I tend to use a sponge for concealer, but when I'm touching up my lips and my eyebrows, this brush is perfect. So I actually just use it straight on my concealer stick, and then I can work in and around the outer edges of my eyebrows to make them really neat and really defined, and the same with my lips. When doing my lips though, because you are usually working with color, I will run one little line and then I will wipe it off on the back of my hand to get rid of any of the color of the lipstick before I go to the next section of my lips. Otherwise you're going to be smearing color everywhere, so it's easier to just sort of wipe the brush off onto the back of my hand between every stroke that I make around my lips. Next up is my favorite angled brush. These are amazing for eyebrows. So basically it's just a little tiny angled brush that's perfect. I dip it into my wax-based product and I create the shape of my eyebrows, and then I go in with my powder product to set everything in place. My angled brushes are my favorite because I need them for my eyebrows because I am not complete without my eyebrows. So basically that's the only thing that I use an angled brush for is my eyebrows. So that's a must in a kit. I need my eyebrows. And then the last brush in this kit is similar. It's slightly angled, not as much as the previous one, and it's a little bit thicker. So I like a more precise brush for my eyebrows so that I can get them very, very neat. And then one like this is actually perfect for smudging color in and around my lower lash line, which is amazing. So basically I had all of these brushes prior to this kit that I had collected from all different brands to make my own, but when I came across this kit that had every single brush that I had sort of picked out for my perfect kit in the one, I was totally impressed and amazed. So like I said, there is a link to the kit in the description if you are interested in checking it out, but I'm in love. I think they are just gorgeous brushes. They are also synthetic, which I forgot to mention before. I'm not a fan of real fur brushes. I find that they shed a lot, and when washing them they smell like horses. I know, a little bit weird, but I find that when I wash natural hair brushes, they tend to smell like horses, and I've just always found myself leaning more towards synthetic brushes than I have natural brushes. So yeah, I'm big on synthetic brushes. And also, I'm going to jump in and show you how I care for them. I try to wash them once a week, but it doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's every second week, and if I'm really bad Rachel, it will be maybe once a month, but I do try to wash them quite often because you can always tell they get filled with too much product, and then when you try to use them, your product doesn't go across your face as nicely. You find that things get a bit clumpy and a bit cakey on your face, and you know that that is the time to wash your brushes because they're not working the way that they should. So that's why I try to keep up with my regular brush washing. Let's get in and wash my brushes. So I like to start by thoroughly wetting the brush and placing some shampoo into the center of the palm of my hand. I use any shampoo, it doesn't really matter which shampoo, I just use whatever I've got at the time. And then I work the brush in circular motions around my hand, making the shampoo start to foam up. As you can tell, the foam in the sink is brown, the foam on my hand is starting to turn white. Once it starts to turn white, it's a pretty good indication that it's clean, and also if the foam is super fluffy and really, really thick, that's also another good indication that it's clean. So then I just rinse off my hand and rinse out the brush thoroughly. I never tilt the brushes upwards so the water's going into them. You always want to keep the brushes tilting downwards because you don't want all the water to run in past the bristles, because that can damage the brushes and they won't last as long. And then I just give it a bit of a squeeze, a bit of a shake out, and place it down and start on the next lot of brushes. So once I've washed all of my brushes, I like to lay them out flat and sort of separate them on a washcloth or a face washer or a towel just to let them dry. So that's how I wash my brushes. That is my sort of favorite brushes, all the things that I would put into a perfect kit, the perfect kit that I have found. Leave me a comment down below and tell me some of your must-have brushes. I love collecting brushes. I have quite a collection now over the past few years of different sets here and there. I definitely think if you're starting out with makeup or you're new to it, getting a set is a really, really good idea for you because you kind of get all the brushes and then you can fiddle with them, you can play around and work out what you like. So that's all my favorite brushes, how I use them, how I clean them, how I look after them, everything about my makeup brushes. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new to my channel so you don't miss any more videos, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!